Yeah, I really enjoyed watching him in college. I thought he made a lot of plays. I thought he could throw it. And then obviously, given who his dad is, he knows how to handle the media, knows how to handle the spotlight. Certainly been under more of a microscope than any other. What did he get drafted? Fourth round? Fifth round? Certainly under the microscope more than any other fifth round pick that's ever been in the history of football.
NFL front offices thought they had the draft script locked. Then, Joe Burrow casually flipped the table with one comment about Shedeur Sanders. Phones started buzzing, timelines caught fire, and executives suddenly looked nervous. This wasn't trash talk. It was the kind of take that makes entire war rooms panic.
Did Joe Burrow take a dive?
No. He went down quick. He went down very fast.
Every other play that Joe Burrow makes, he's escaping. He absolutely took a dive on that play. He had room to escape. He chose not to.
I choose not to believe that.
All I'm saying is it didn't look that much different than when Brett Favre took his dive for Michael Strahan.
I don't know. There are some similarities.
Like, that was not the best Joe Burrow effort that I've...
Apparently, this was going to be one of those end-of-season press conferences you half listen to while pretending to update spreadsheets. The kind where a quarterback says the safe things, thanks the locker room, and everyone mentally clocks out until draft season officially begins.
I love this comparison, as opposed to some of the others that I've heard about when you comp them with Kirk Cousins and all of that, because it says, okay, you can play, but what are you going to do in the big games? We've had some big games from Joe Burrow. We've had similar situations from Shedeur Sanders. We've seen them do things with less talent in the offensive line. Take teams far places without that offensive line. Stand in the pocket. People like to say, well, they hold on to the ball too long. I like to say, hey, you make a stand in the pocket, stare down the bell.
Instead, Joe Burrow calmly wandered into a conversation that sent executives lunging for group chats and scouting reports like someone just yelled fire in the building. Because Burrow wasn't sulking, ranting, or throwing teammates under the bus. He was relaxed.
And every clip that I see, he seems to be handling it well, says most of the right things in the media, is who he is, he's himself. That's what you want out of a football player, so he seems to be handling it the right way.
Has he ever come up in conversations that you and Flacco have had at any point, considering, Flacco was with him, in Cleveland up until he came here?
Yeah, you talk about a lot of different players across the league.
Almost suspiciously relaxed. The Bengals had hit the final week of a disappointing season, and he sounded less like a guy licking his wounds and more like someone quietly taking notes. That tone alone should have been the warning sign, because when Joe Burrow gets calm, something uncomfortable usually follows.
Joe Burrow might have just purposely laid down here for Myles Garrett to let him get the sack record. I mean, he literally sees him coming and just goes and takes a knee. Similar to when Brett Favre let his division rival, Michael Strahan, break the record. Wouldn't doubt me if Garrett was talking to Burrow beforehand and he's like, hey man, if it's late fourth quarter and I still haven't got to you, here's a couple $100,000, just go down for me. But nah, cool for Myles Garrett, absolute historic season.
Joe Burrow just laid down and gave Myles Garrett the sack record. That sack looked eerily similar to this one.
He zoomed out. Not into motivational poster territory, but into cold reality. Championships matter. MVPs matter. Competing every year is the expectation. And then came the twist. Instead of demanding control or hinting at front office power plays, he made it clear he wants no part of the executive cosplay. No scouting, no draft rooms, no pretending to be the general manager on his days off.
And Shedeur Sanders is that guy. Look at all the other rookies on this Cleveland Browns team. You'll see that they have some guys on this team that they can use as their foundational pieces to build around to actually be a good football team next year. Don't trade Myles Garrett. Upgrade that offensive line. Bust down Jerry Jeudy's contract to bring in some more wide receivers that has trust and relationships with Shedeur Sanders, right? He could depend on them. And then you retool playmakers on the outside. Like I said, the receivers and DBs. You got to have some guys that's going to fill in.
His job, as he sees it, is simple and terrifying at the same time. play elite football, keep improving, and quietly relay what the locker room feels before the building starts cracking. That line alone already had decision makers sweating, because influence without ego is far more dangerous than a quarterback pounding the table.
I'm so happy with his performance. They saw what they had seen in college at Colorado. A man that understands how to play in pressure situations. Very few people would stand up and speak up and say, you know, I was absolutely wrong. He outran the defensive line and got around the corner because people said he couldn't run. Can't run like his dad. Can't no damn body run like his dad. And let me tell you how I know. Stop with all of that now. He holds on to the ball too long. Remember that old stuff coming out? And I said, well, we can switch that and just say he stares down.
But the real chaos didn't arrive until the conversation drifted somewhere nobody expected. College football, Cleveland. And then, almost casually, Shedeur Sanders. That's when the temperature in NFL offices changed. Burrow didn't hype. He didn't overdo it. He didn't play highlight scout.
We tell you what happens before it happens in the Browns game. Usually it's not very hard to predict because it's chaos and sadness. Week 18, the end of the season is finally here. So for my headline, simply, finally, it's over. The miserable season ends with a 24-17 loss to the Bengals. Apparently that's me, Bull and G, throwing the Browns out the door, which can't come soon enough. I think we're all ready for this to be over so that we can start talking draft. And
he focused on the one thing front offices pretend they can measure, but almost always miss: composure. Shedeur, according to Burrow, doesn't just make plays. He handles pressure like someone who's been living inside a spotlight since birth, which, inconveniently for everyone else, happens to be true. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Burrow pointed out that Shedeur entered the league with more scrutiny than almost any late-round pick in modern football. Not because of his arm, but because of his last name.
I keep the conversation intimate. We had a very lengthy conversation. He came to me and just, wanted to talk. And I'm always there, as said earlier, of giving my perspective on what I see and how I've gone about things. And ultimately, it takes a great deal of patience and hard work and a sense of resilience. You got to want it. You got to want it. And so I'm supporting him from where I am and wishing him nothing but the best with his opportunities.
And yet, every clip shows the same thing. Calm answers, no panic, no scrambling for approval. Just a player who looks like he understands exactly who he is. That's the sentence that made front offices freeze. Because draft slides are supposed to be about tape, traits, and projections, not discomfort, not media anxiety, not fear of a player who won't shrink to fit a system.
I mean, I hold the record for 16-game season. They hold records for 17-game season. That's the way it works out.
Still claiming the title.
But you can't compare records from 12-game seasons to 16 and 17-game seasons. It doesn't work. But I look at it like this. There's always generations that I love the fact this young man's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I know that he has so many more sacks left in him. 30 years old. I think I had just as many, if not more, sacks after 30, as did Bruce Smith, as did Reggie White. I think he's just getting going. He's just finding his stride. And you don't know how hard it is to do that on a team that isn't always in the lead, a team that isn't always competitive. I think that is the most amazing thing about it. He's done it on a team where he's the focus. He's the guy that gets doubled and tripled every time, and it's never stopped him from going out there and putting up numbers year after year.
Not playing with the lead, yeah.
Without playing with the lead. I mean, this kid is amazing. And I really just want him to be on a team, which hopefully will be Cleveland because he signed a long-term deal there, that wins and gives him the opportunity to have the ultimate thing in this game of a team game, which is a Super Bowl.
And suddenly, teams had to confront the idea that Shedeur didn't slide because he couldn't play. He slid because he wouldn't play small. Burrow didn't say that outright, of course. He didn't have to. He did something far more destructive. He treated Shedeur like a normal quarterback who belonged in serious football conversations. No spectacle, no side comments, just respect. And that kind of endorsement doesn't scream, it whispers, which is exactly why it rattled people.
Whether or not the Browns need to take a quarterback or whether the quarterback's on the roster, it's always a good time. It's the Browns Super Bowl season about to begin with draft season. Dustin.
Yeah, well, how about this for a headline? Browns beat the Bengals, Ohio temporarily united in confusion because nobody knows where they're headed. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
There are no answers.
Yeah.
Nothing's decided in this game except we're all just sitting there scratching our heads.
Yeah, this can't end soon enough, really.
Meanwhile, Burrow kept doing what he does best. He avoided gossip. He refused to leak locker room chatter. He shut down the temptation to turn this into headline bait. That restraint only added weight to everything else he said, because when Joe Burrow talks without chasing attention, people listen harder, and here's the part nobody wants to admit. This wasn't Burrow hyping a rookie. This was Burrow accidentally exposing how fragile the draft process really is. How often teams confuse comfort with correctness. How quickly confidence gets mislabeled as risk.
Myles Garrett broke the sack record. Now here is the question. Did Joe Burrow let him do it? The answer, honestly, I think is yes. I think Joe Burrow was like, you know what, you're going for the sack record? But in reality, during the play, he was going to get sacked no matter what. And you could see some of the Browns defenders kind of peeled off. Garrett got there, sacked him. They should have let Myles Garrett sack him in the beginning of the game, because then the Browns defense wouldn't have tried the rest of the game. That was their only win. And then they ended up winning the game. Bengals, next time, let him get the sack, and then you guys can go ahead and win the game.
And how frequently players slide, not because they lack talent, but because they refuse to be molded into something quieter. Front offices don't melt down over hot takes. They melt down over calm truths that can't be undone. And Burrow delivered one with a smile, then moved on like nothing happened. That's what made it worse. So now every snap Shatter takes quietly dares the league to answer one uncomfortable question. Did teams actually evaluate the player, or did they panic at everything that came with him? If you think this debate is only getting started, hit like, drop your take in the comments, and subscribe, because the next chapter is going to be much louder than the first.